Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman, and today I'm going to talk to you about breach of promise to marry suits in the Victorian era. The plot of A Rapping at the Door, Book 3 of my Tales of Chetzemoka series, hinges on the potential for a female con artist to lodge a breach of promise suit. Lawsuits for breach of promise to marry reached their heyday in the 19th century. Looking into them, one sees a rather interesting legal situation in Victorian culture where it was nearly impossible for a man to win and almost unthinkable for a woman to lose. The basic idea behind a breach of promise to marry suit is that marriage is a legal contract between two parties, and plans to enter into that contract constitute part of the contract itself. If a man reneged on his promise to marry a woman, he could be held liable for breaking that contract with her, the same as if he'd changed his mind about going into business with someone. In other words, in 19th century England or America, if a man broke his promise to marry a woman, she could sue him. Women who did so almost always won their cases, and the rewards could be substantial. The original intent of breach of promise to marry laws were to protect a woman's interests, especially in cases where a couple had become intimate and the woman got pregnant. If the man then jilted her, breach of promise laws were in place to hold him financially responsible for his child so that the burden of caring for it would not be thrown upon the community. Besides breach of promise, there was also a similar legal heading called seduction, which was also intended to make a man pay for the upkeep of children born out of wedlock. Legally, the main difference between seduction and breach of promise was that seduction cases were brought against a man by the parents of the woman he'd seduced, and any money the courts forced him to pay went to her parents, whereas a breach of promise suit was brought against the man by the jilted woman herself, and the money went straight to her. The existence of breach of promise as a separate heading gave women more personal empowerment without having to depend on their parents. The important thing to remember about the intent of breach of promise to marry laws is that they were meant to ensure that a man was financially responsible for his own children. The way these laws were interpreted, however, got much, much broader than this. In some cases, things got downright wacky. For example, the nonfiction book Theatrical and Circus Life, published in 1882, recounts the story of a San Francisco actress who was well known to be romantically involved with one of her fellow actors. She kept on seeing her actor boyfriend when she also became involved with an elderly miner who'd struck it rich in the gold rush of 1849. The old 49er showered jewels and money on her for a year, and all the while she kept carrying on with her other boyfriend, often giving him presents bought with the other man's money. When the 49er worked out what was going on, he was justifiably upset. However, when he tried to disentangle himself from this triangle, the actress who'd been cheating on him slapped him with a breach of promise suit. Newspapers ate up this sort of thing. Over in England, in 1889, a 21-year-old woman named Gladys Knowles became engaged to the 66-year-old editor of a Lonely Hearts journal. When this engagement with a man more than 3 times her age came to nothing, 5 months later she sued him for breach of promise and was awarded a whopping £10,000 in damages. The Knowles case involved exceptionally large damages, but financial remuneration of some sort for the woman involved in a breach of promise case was absolutely the norm. Between 1816 and 1850, more than 95% of women bringing breach of promise cases against men who jilted them were successful, and in the latter part of the 19th century and the years leading up to the Great War, the figures varied between 80 and 90% of women winning their breach of promise cases. Evidence in breach of promise cases was generally of the he said, she said variety, and women's higher rates of success in these cases tell us that judges and juries were more inclined to believe a woman's word than a man's in affairs of this kind. Some tangible documents which did come into play in breach of promise cases were old love letters, which the ruptured couple had written to each other, and could be introduced as evidence in court. The possibility of this happening led to a standard bit of correspondence etiquette in the Victorian era. If a relationship went sour, it was expected that each half of the couple should return all the other's love letters. If they didn't, much mischief could ensue. Considering the extremely high rate of success women had in winning breach of promise cases, sometimes on rather frivolous grounds, it's almost surprising that these cases weren't more common. But then again, maybe it's not so surprising after all. Maybe it just speaks to the magnanimity and forbearance of Victorian women. In any case, it's an interesting chapter of woman's power in history, which should really be remembered. Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up, and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!